people need to be in prison. Absolutely. Some people absolutely do, but there is a point in time when that period of imprisonment ends.
The challenge for a community is to ensure that the people who are being released are actually coming out and the circumstances change.
Prison doesn't necessarily change that, you know, and the attitude that the community has that you lock everyone up is wrong.
Jails aren't treatment centres. They've never done it well. There should be alternatives, and there can be alternatives.
I understand the need for punishment, but if we don't do anything else, we'll never change the behaviours, and you'll release that person into the community and the same things will repeat.
I'm Nicole. I was addicted to heroin. Once I touched the heroin, I never looked back. It was just, that was it. I was always pushed to the side and being told I was dumb, I was useless, I was no good, I'd never grow up to be any good. It's what they call borderline intellectual disability. I appear to be very, very high functioning and a lot of things I can do. Like the very basic everyday things can quite often be a real challenge and a real task for me.
I'm Peter Barry. Cross that thin line between being a heavy drinker and being an alcoholic. 9 o'clock in the morning I was on my 6th glass of wine. I found I couldn't slow down.
I went away every Christmas with my family. Both my parents worked. They did everything in their power to give me a great childhood, but unfortunately they would leave me with my... He used to sexually abuse me, and it's taken me up until only probably 2 years ago that I've been able to put the link that the two are connected together.
I had a head-on smash on August the 2nd, 1978. My mate's younger brother got killed in it, and after that I was drinking pretty heavy and probably actually played on it a little bit after that, because it was the first time in ages that people weren't, having a go at me about the way I was drinking. They were saying Peter's drinking more because Graham died. And then a couple of months down the track, when they asked me to, you should be slowing down now, I found I couldn't slow down.
I left home when I was 29, went into an abusive relationship, being beaten, abused, mentally, physically, everything.
More often than not, most people that come into our services are victims themselves as well and live in a place, in a space that is unsafe.
And when you read their histories, you get a better understanding of what might have contributed to where they're at now, which doesn't justify it, but it just gives you a greater understanding of, particularly if you think, well, if I had have had the situations or the circumstances that they've been in, how would I have turned out myself? And but people in the community aren't privy to that information, so they don't take it into consideration, I don't think.
It feels like the world is ending. It feels like someone has pressed a stopwatch that's counting down, and you're just waiting for it to hit zero and the world to explode.
every day is consumed with rorting and trying to find a way to get money. It's always a criminal behaviour. And then after that, there's the 2 or 3 minutes of pleasure that you get from the drugs, and then bang, it's where am I getting my next lot of money from? It's never ending, and it's so consuming. It consumes your every being, everything. So my partner and I, one night, I'd come home from work and we wanted to score. So we jumped in my car. We headed to Collingwood from Lilydale. We scored and it did nothing. We were still both really sick. We were sitting in a side street and he said to me, we need money, we need drugs, what are we going to do? And I said, well, I don't know. And then he come up with a scheme, and before I knew it, we'd committed an armed robbery. It was an armed robbery on a female walking down the street, basically. So it was a syringe attack. My partner filled his syringe up with blood and handed it to me and told me to go and stick somebody up with it. So that's what I did. I had just lost my world. Like, I was in the middle of an addiction, and as bad as that was, 10 minutes later, it was trifold, it was tenfold. I'd committed an armed robbery and I didn't know now what I was going to do. And the only out to that seemed like death. It really did. Like, I couldn't see myself explaining to my family what I'd just done, or my children. Even though I had done something that I will never, ever get over or forgive myself for, not to mention my victim, she'll never get over it, and she'll never... she's affected, no doubt, on a daily basis. So, I know that I'm not the victim. I was the perpetrator. But it really has affected me.
I would rebel against anything and everyone and make it really hard for people to talk to me. I'd scream and yell and lash out. I would beat people up. Not so much older men, but little, like my children. I used to beat my children a lot, especially my son. And I regret that deeply because to me, the little people, as I called them then, couldn't fight back.
Yeah, I suppose you don't really think about it. You just drink until, something really goes bad or something happens. I've always been a beer and Jim Beam drinker, and depending on money, it was always Jim Beam, then you drop down to beer, and then you just drop down to cask wine when you couldn't afford it, so you just made sure you had some there, you know. So I rang my parents up and said could I come home for a week or two just to try and get my act together. They said okay, but on the condition I didn't drink while I was there. So I moved back to their place. Following Wednesday, they went to the Elderly Citizens Club. I went to the Epping pub, drank all day up there, came back, got home before them. I've just gone in and gone to bed. Parents have come in sometime later. I've got up out of bed, gone to the kitchen, grabbed a knife out the kitchen drawer, pulled a knife from my parents and robbed them of $20 just so I could get another packet of cigarettes and a small 6-pack of beer. About 20 minutes, half an hour later, I was arrested at Thomastown Railway Station. And and then from there ended up in Port Phillip Prison. Felt disgusted with myself. Felt really terrible. I was really in a dark place.
Once they commit an offence, that's all people see them as, and they do feel marked, and that's understandable. But it makes it really hard for them to redefine themselves as well. And that happens for any offence, that people will say if they've committed an offence and been to prison or been in the court system, there's a huge sense of shame. People are really fearful. They don't quite understand what's going on. I think it's really hard for people to make a fresh start after that. So the legal system's really important. And people also need a way to find another pathway after that often.
We can provide all of the therapeutic treatment and support in the world. We can do a whole bunch of stuff on behaviour change. We can help people with their drug and alcohol addictions and their mental health. But if we don't give them somewhere safe to live, if they don't have an income, if they don't have food, and we're talking Maslow's basic hierarchy of needs, if you don't have someone that cares about you and who loves you and cares about what happens to you, this means jack shit. We will never help, we'll never support that, because the most important basic needs aren't being met. If we want to genuinely give someone an opportunity to not get to prison and not stay there, or to be able to come out and stay out, you have to have those basics. You have to have them. And then all of this other stuff as well wrapped around you to support you. And as we begin to step back and you begin to step up, all those other foundations are in place, and that's how you stay out. We're proudly and unashamedly clear in our vision and mission. We work with offenders and people at risk of coming into the criminal justice system. We're experts. It's what we're best at. It's what we do, and we don't do anything else. And I think that's the niche space that we fill and do well.
Now we've got after hours sort of social programs. We've got social educators that help people with things like budgeting and social groups, things that give people hope that they can perhaps take a new direction.
Well, I had no idea. I had no idea what was going to happen when I get out. I knew more than likely there'd be no contact with the parents. I had no idea what was going to happen when I was released. Actually, the only visitors I had in jail were Sister Clara and Beverly Fox from ACSO. Bev organised for a friend of hers to pick me up from Port Phillip in Laverton, drove me to Centrelink in Sunshine to register for unemployment, then dropped me off at ACSO's head office, which was at Spencer Street at the time. Little things like a toaster and a kettle and just things like that for the place I was in.
Ideally, you'd want someone to come out into the community and have good accommodation so that they're going to be comfortable and feel like they've got some self-worth.
I was actually told by the parole board, we've got nowhere to put you, we're going to leave you in jail. Well, that was like someone kicking me in the stomachs and making me feel really small. ACSO was prepared to give me a go, give me a chance. And on a week before I was due to be released, they said that I was moving into this place called TK House, which is in Noble Park, and explained the situation that there's cameras, I'm going to be the only one there for the first year, and I'm basically going to have to abide by the rules. That's the staff toilets. That's one bedroom, this is the laundry, and this is the office where we come up and get our medication and whatever and see the staff. There was nothing here, so I planted all this. Just basically how you run a normal household, teach you all that sort of stuff. Learning how to prepare to become independent, live in the outside world. If I'd have had this the first time, I can probably be sure I wouldn't have offended again.
Another area where ACSO helps people making the transition from prison is our employment programs.
A lot of employers would be a bit hesitant to take our guys on, which, you know, I can understand on one level, but unless they get a chance to get employment and to be able to become independent in the community, they're not going to be able to break the cycle that they're in. So, you know, as difficult as it is for people to give someone another chance, it can be really rewarding for an employer and certainly, you know, incredibly beneficial for the client and the community.
I was a client of ACSO for 6 years through their employment services. I had a phone call from my worker, Jerry Diner, who called me and said that ACSO had started a scanning traineeship and would I be interested? And I was like, yeah, no worries. I missed the appointment, of course, and I missed the second appointment. And then the third appointment I went for an interview, and 6 months later I received my certificate to in business administration, which was amazing.
I've always worked, you know, from the age of 16. But ACSO and the big issue have just been the two key points that have, you know, helped me this time around. I met a guy that used to come in every day with his big issue uniform on, bright yellow vest, and he used to say to me, why don't you come out and sell the magazine? So yeah, I started doing that, and look, the money always comes in handy, you know, but it's the interaction with people, you know, being out there and just having a laugh and associating with our people and not stuck at home just sitting on the lounge watching the idiot box all day, you know, and drinking, you know. But I also enjoy it because it's great to feel like you're a part of the community and that you're involved in something.
You train them or help them to be trained, then we're able to actually get them employment. And if you get someone employment and you give them a purpose, you give them some dignity back, which they lose when they go to jail, and it's more likely that when they have all of these things happening in their life, that they're not going to reoffend because you've been able to reconnect them back to the community.
Wholly and solely just fixing my addiction, I don't believe would have worked. You've got to have something to replace the addiction with. You really do.
I'm running a program where we go to all the houses across ACSO and basically work on their garden and tidy it up. And I'm a social educator, so my role is to help teach these guys independent living skills. It's really good for setting these guys up for employment, creating that employee-employer relationship that they're going to have later on if they seek employment. So we're basically trying to, to teach them about work and what it's like and how they can enjoy what they do at the same time. Gardening is something that you can finish at the end of the day and really look back and see what you've done and be proud of it.
When I first finished my traineeship, Anita actually called me in the office the second last day, and she said to me, where do you think you'll go from here, Nikki? And I said, unfortunately, I think, look, this has been amazing, but it's actually depressing that it's now ending, and I'll probably go back to my couch, not looking after myself and dwelling on the fact that I haven't been able to make this continue. And she said to me, well, no, you won't, because I'm taking you to head office and you're going to continue. So, yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, I never ever thought that I would have a position like this with trust and, yes, it's just everything that's changed my whole world.
The community is responsible for community safety. Every single one of us, me, you, all of us, and if we just say, well, it's only prisons or it's only the police, then we're making a major mistake. So if we're passionate and if we really, really care about community safety, it's got to be for everybody. And if our community is safe, we build those safe communities, we'll actually have significantly less crime.
I know that if I had a problem, I could still ring anyone up from ACSO and they would give me advice today, whether I'm a past client or a present client. I've got my support when I need it, and eventually that is all going to cease where I will be my own independent person.
My self-esteem was built on a daily basis. I remember my first birthday here. It was amazing, getting a birthday present and going out for lunch with colleagues. I'd never done that before. And that was an amazing feeling to be able to do something like that. It just, for the average person out there, they do it every year. But for us, for addicts and people with criminal convictions that have either been in jail or can't afford to do it, they don't know how that feels. And it's an incredible feeling to be just one of the crew.
Our clients are more than just people who use drugs. They're more than just people who are depressed. They're more than just people who have an intellectual disability. They're so much more than that. And I think the community perceptions around our clients are so stuck on those negative aspects that the positive aspects of our clients are never really given a chance.
Lives aren't a linear diagram. There's ups and downs, and there's things that change.
I've been given a second chance, and I want to make the most of it. I've hurt a lot of people in my life, and I don't want to hurt any more people.
Well, like I said, I've been off the grog now for 4 months. Hopefully it continues that way. No one can read the future, but, hopefully things go well. At the moment, I've got everything I need. Haven't got everything I want, but I'm quite content with the way things are at the moment. Things are going reasonably well.
I'm one of those people that's been given that second chance to create a second chance. It's huge. It's huge.